Welcome to CEO Insights. I'm Marilyn de Guzman with investingnews.com. My guest is Lloyd Kaiser, CEO of DY6 Metals, an Australian resource company with rare earths and critical metals projects in Malawi. Good to have you, Lloyd.
Thanks, Marilyn. Nice to be here.
Yes, good to see you again. So let's talk about, last year China, which is the world's largest producer of rare earths, announced an export ban on rare earths extraction and separation technologies. Yeah, I want to get your comments. What consequences do you see this bringing to global supply? And on the others, like on the opposite side of that, what opportunities do you see here?
Yeah, look, for some time, separation technology has been banned from China, and this is the solvent extraction that produces the finished rare earth products. But more recently, it was extended to extraction and beneficiation, the other parts of the process. So look, I think for a long time, many companies that are doing research on their projects, whether they be in North America or Australia, have relied on China technology and have also had alliances with researchers in China. And China has a very strong R&D and development centres. They've got thousands of researchers. It covers the entire value chain and also every element in the lanthanide series. So I guess, they're trying to protect their interest, doesn't want to share anymore. And perhaps the West have already had enough of advantage for today, for a number of years. I know that there's many technology groups or groups that are always been interested to assist with overseas explorers and their development. And those participants probably still would like to, but the government has cracked down on this now. So look, there's going to be obviously a gap. Extraction technology, it's complex, it's individual for those projects. A lot of R&D is also left to smaller explorers, for a number of years. Most of them have relied on, as I said, on China. So, what's next? I think that the governments, I would like to see probably, and I think it will happen, I think we'll see more government funding for support R&D. We might even see a step further where we'll see these sort of rare earth sort of research centres, or maybe sort of research institutes that are mostly already funded by the public sector, being supported by the government. And I think that'll be the initiatives that are probably going to go forward from here to help build that R&D technology outside of China.
Right. So for your particular, I guess from your project's perspective, you're focused on rare earths, specifically, dysprosium, terbium, and NdPr. Yeah. So these are considered critical, but also strategic metals. Could you explain why these are considered strategic and why should investors pay attention to these elements?
Yeah. So look, ND, TB, they are still critical along with other materials like lithium, cobalt, graphite, because they all enable this green energy technology. They're obviously needed in abundant supply for energy, clean energy future. I guess there's a number of reasons for dysprosium, terbium, and NdPr to be considered strategic. There's limited rare earth producers, outside of China, and the value chain outside of China is also less compelling. It's been more expensive for a long time. I think the global competitiveness of China has also put a bit of a dampener on operators outside of China. Japan had lots of supply chain operations that had closed. So China's dominance of rare earths has been overwhelming, and the government considers their rare earth resources strategic. And China's protecting their interests, and I think the rest of us are sort of vulnerable to what's happening, and also potential market manipulation. And so look, probably the another analogy is that when you compare it to, say, lithium, there's lots of producers outside of China. There's plenty in Australia. There's plenty sort of available in Canada or North America. Lots of good quality deposits that could easily come into production. All those supply chains are well connected, through Korea and Europe, to form that battery alliance. But, when you look at the dominance of what's happened with rare earths, there's really only two major, what we would call strategic producers. That's China. It's Lynas, it's in Australia, and MP Materials, that's in the US. There is smaller operators, but, they're not really, they're supporting the supply, but not necessarily the strategic aspect. So when some of the drivers that we see that from end users, they want these products, it's not about price, it's always about security of supply. And REEs, or these types of REs, they're essential, of course, for EVs, but they're also used for national defense and military applications, so they are strategic.
Yeah. So, as we're talking about, alternative sources of all these critical metals, and especially rare earths, there's a recent statement by the United States Institute of Peace, where a Washington-based think tank, saying that the U.S. needs to bolster relations with African nations as it strives to secure more critical minerals and reduce dependence on China. As a company that's operating in Africa, what are your thoughts on this? And are you seeing this, any indication of this U.S. government strategy to, boost relations with other nations such as Africa?
Yeah, look, I think there's lots going on here. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I'm not so sure the US spent a lot of time with partnership with African nations, but they're obviously stepping up efforts to boost their relationships. Africa offers a lot, actually, in terms of it's rich in critical materials, and could also help secure supply. So I think being well endowed with critical materials, lies the opportunity for the US, and I think they understand that. And perhaps, if they have been left out of these partnerships, trade deals, and other discussions, the US will probably start to incorporate them in with, So I think it's imperative, because when you look at, what they've established so far with mineral security partnerships with Japan, Australia, India, or Korea, there's a lot more. If they want to actually achieve their outcomes in the future for supply, they really need to be a bit more broader and look at Africa, and also, prevents, the presence of others like China and the Arabic nations that are spending a lot of time there. So look, from my perspective, my projects are in Malawi. I think the government of Malawi would like to see more support from the US to assist with infrastructure, and that would also then help with all the mining companies, coming into fruition. I think the US has played an important role in emphasizing, the role of critical minerals and how important it is for the global demand. And so lots of nations in Africa, they have actually stopped sort of selling ore or unprocessed critical materials, like concentrates. They want to see more downstream. So I think that's starting to emerge. What would be really important for Africa, and also for a lot of these critical mineral projects that are in Africa or in Malawi. There's several rare earth projects that we saw some introduction of Africa or some of these nations into that Inflation Reduction Act, open that door up, because that will create the end-use market support projects, in Africa, and also then funding, because eventually that products could then go into the US. So I think there's going to be lots of developments over this next sort of 2 to 3 years.
So, yeah, and this is probably a good time to sort of provide an overview and updates on the projects that you have in Malawi and what make these projects compelling assets.
Yeah, so look, and we've going through a pretty exciting phase at the moment. So this week we actually had an announcement of a rare earth carbonatite project called Tindulu, added now to our other projects that are in Malawi. So we have 2 other rare earth projects. One's a heavy rare earth project, and then we have other prospects for lithium that are in northern Malawi. It's been pretty exciting news this week with that project. You know, it has the potential to produce a sizable mineral resource estimate, and it's the type of rare earths that can be potentially easily upgraded and can supply the market. So I think for some time, DY6 has been undervalued, and I think the market is just starting to see that this type of project can move now from that to the next stage, which is probably the development of a mineral resource and then future development for DFS or fit studies and also project funding.
Right. Well, thanks again, Lloyd, for joining me today and sharing your company news and your thoughts on what's going on in the market right now.
Thanks, Marilyn. Nice to speak to you.
You too. And thanks everyone for watching. Join us again next time for another edition of CEO Insights. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates and interviews. See you next time.